Hey, 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 hey. I'm live. I'm here. It is Soncerae. I hope you guys are you guys. I hope you guys are having an amazing day. I'm having an amazing day. Um Most of you know, or if you don't know, I get up at about 3:30. I mean, that's easy because my body is still on like East Coast time, even though I'm in California. So I get up at like 3:30. Okay, I immediately find something constructive to do after my meditation. I meditate every morning. I pray every morning. On my way to work, I meditate the entire time. And um, if I have some free time, I do Uber. Um, or any type of side hustle, my graphic design business, anything. I never allow myself to sit idle. If I'm sitting idle, if I don't have anything else to do, I get onto YouTube and make content. So I never ever sit still and just have nothing to do. Okay, I refuse to not be productive. All right, so um, those of you don't know my story, I'll say my story and then get to how I ended up living in a $500,000 home in like a year, basically. Okay. And it's not hard to do. A lot of people look at it like their dream home or where they want to live as if it's far fetched, when really it's not at all. It's pretty easy to do, and I'm gonna share how. A lot of people don't believe in metaphysics and the law of attraction, but you should, because just how you use electricity or you use a lot of things that you don't understand how they were made, it doesn't mean that it doesn't exist. It just means you don't understand how it's made or how certain things are produced. Okay, so I do want to say that you should believe in the law of attraction. If you don't, um, I'm still going to give you some practical ways of how I ended up being homeless, and then ended up fixing this mess that was created. Now, I'm the type of person, I have ups and downs in my life. We all do. We all have times where we might have an emergency and we don't have the finances that we usually have. We end up losing a job, or we end up spending too much on something. An emergency could happen where you need money for surgery, or your kids need something like school uniforms, or something that has to do with sports, or anything. It could be anything. You might crash your car. You might need money for that. You never know. It is a number of things that could go wrong, even if you are seemingly substantially stable financially. And so anyway, I ended up being homeless because my ass was living in Lawrenceville, Georgia, and I wanted to move from Lawrenceville anyway. I was living there with my daughter. My daughter is 18. She's in high school. She's in her senior year in high school. I was living there with her and her father, a home that he and I shared together. Okay, we were equally putting forth the money towards the mortgage, utilities, everything. We worked together. We co-parented her entire life. Okay, I think we spent more time living together than apart. Okay, because we just realized that she was like better off with both of us, because I had lived in when I originally had my daughter, I was living in DC. When I got pregnant with her, I was living in DC. And when he and I broke up, I moved to Atlanta. So he would take care of her sometimes, and then I would take care of her sometimes, and we would go back and forth. And then when she started going to school, things got different. We couldn't just ship, her, or put her on an airplane anymore, because it's school now. So he would have her the school year, and I would have her the summertime. And then when middle school came, I took her all middle school. And then when she got in high school, we decided to live together. Okay, because he decided to move to Atlanta. And so we were living together, and we were just splitting everything. We were very stable. Everyone had their job. Everybody had their role in their position. And so to me, where we lived was kind of far out. It was like, how Atlanta is built. If you don't know, Atlanta is small, but what makes Atlanta big is actually the surrounding counties and the people who come out of those counties to come into Atlanta. So I lived about an hour away from Atlanta. And I was in Atlanta for 17 years. So initially I was in Atlanta, then I moved out to Decatur, which is like the next county over. And then after Decatur became oversaturated, it became one of those places where it was predominantly black, and it ended up becoming like a poverty stricken area, just the part of Decatur I was in. I decided to move further out to Gwinnett. Okay, because when I first moved to Atlanta in 2000, Stone Mountain, that area over on in DeKalb County, was pretty high middle class. You know, it was people who, you know, were wealthy and, well, let's just say almost wealthy. You know what I mean? And me and my family lived out there. Okay, and the cost of living in Georgia is pretty low. So it's easy for you to come to Atlanta and live an amazing life. Okay, because it's, you know, the cost of living is it's cheap, and everything is basically cheap there. And so, anyway, when I was living in the house with my daughter's father, and he and I were splitting the bills, we weren't together. He would date people, I would date people. You know, he and I hadn't been together since, like, I don't know, before my daughter was born, because he decided he didn't want to, you know, settle down. He didn't want to be married. He still isn't married. He has like, I think he has like commitment issues. Anyway, that's his personal business. So anyway, my daughter was getting older. You know, she's 18. So I was like, okay, you know, my daughter is 18. So I know after the school year, I'm going to leave. I knew I didn't want to be in Georgia. I knew it. I knew it before my son's father decided to move to Georgia. But when he moved there, it was kind of like, okay, now I got to stay here, and you know, my daughter is here. So I'm going to stay here until she graduates from high school. So I'm making plans to move to California. I'm like, okay, my daughter graduates 2019. 2019 is going to be the year I'm moving to California, right? Now, unfortunately, when I was making these plans, I decided I no longer wanted to live in Lawrenceville, Georgia, and I wanted to move closer to the city of Atlanta and live like in Norcross. Okay? And Norcross is still Gwinnett County, is just closer to, you know, Atlanta. And so I was looking for apartments in Norcross. And I was like, okay, I'm gonna find me an apartment. Now I lived in Norcross before, you know, before my daughter's father, you know, and I decided to live together. I was living alone in my own townhome in Norcross. And so I said, I'm gonna go back out to Norcross, give me a nice, you know, room apartment. And so this is around the time I met Priest. I met my son's father. And I started dating him, and I started telling my daughter and my daughter's father about Priest, and my family about Priest. And everyone was like encouraging me to, you know, move on with my life with Priest. And I found out that Priest was looking for a place to stay as well. And so he and I started looking for a place together. Now, meanwhile, I'm not knowing that this is just a game that Priest is playing. I have no idea. I'm just going around looking for places to live. But every time I would make a suggestion to him about where we should live, it would always be a reason why we couldn't live there. Meanwhile, we're in a hotel. So I'm like, we're in a hotel. We're sleeping in the back of your Explorer. I mean, pick a place you want to live, a city, any city. But anytime we would take interest in any, like maybe apartment complex or something like that, it would always be a story about how him and his ex used to live there, or how it was too far from the train station and he had this phobia of driving, or he didn't want to live here because blah, blah, blah. He wanted to live in this very, very upscale environment, but he didn't have the paycheck to match. You understand? And even though I, you know, was pulling in money, it was like, okay, we can live in a decent area, but we're not going to be able to live like all ballerific and shit. Like, we're not going to be able to do that. We can save to live that way. We're not going to be able to live that way right now. You know, building is a process. You don't just close your eyes and then wake up one morning and bing, you have the house of your dreams, especially when you are changing your life significantly to be with another person. Like if your life is one way and then you turn around and you start switching your life so it can run parallel with another human being, there's a lot of things that change. There's a lot of things that you have to do. And so as we're going through this transition of me, you know, being independent and me taking care of myself, now I'm factoring in the fact that I have a man with me, and this is the man that I'm going to marry. So everything is like switching over, and I'm starting to take in consideration what he wants as well in regards to my career, in regards to how much money I make. There's people I'm working with that he doesn't want me to work with, so I'm losing sources of income. Uh, before I met him, I had 4 or 5 sources of income, but then when I met him and he started expressing his concerns about people that I was working with or things that I was doing in regards to my finances, I started eliminating sources of income. Now, when you start doing that, you're like, okay, now I gotta subsidize. I gotta shrink down my expectations in regards to where I live because he only had one source of income. Okay, so my four sources are slowly going away. Suddenly, I get pregnant. Now, this is where it gets really crazy because I had been trying for 10 years to have another baby and it just didn't work. I mean, I have literally had been engaged 3 times and I had tried to have a baby with better men who were in a place financially that could have supported a family, nothing like him. And it never worked. And so here I am, I get pregnant, I get sick. So I can't even work as much as I used to in regards to, any type of graphic design or any type of promotions or anything. I'm not at my full potential. So here I am losing more sources of income. This is just boiling down to the fact that I trusted a man with my life and I shouldn't have. Okay, that's really what it boils down to. And so living in the back of the truck with him. We're staying at hotels, and he decides that he wants to get back with his ex, sleep with other women, whatever. And he decides to leave the situation. So I'm sitting here in a hotel alone, pregnant in the city of Atlanta, actually in Gwinnett County. I was in Gwinnett County in Norcross, at this place called In Town Suites. I don't know if you guys know In Town Suites, but it's like the dirtiest, nastiest, like filthiest place that you can go to to live, but it's an extended stay hotel, but it has roaches. I mean, it can make do if you just want to spend the night somewhere, not if you want to live there for an extended amount of time. So I'm sitting here going in and out of extended stay hotels with him per his suggestion because, before I met him, I always had a stable living. Like, I didn't even know what an extended stay was. I didn't even know that people even did that type of thing. Like, I was like, people do this? Like, this is shocking me. And when we got to the in-town suites, there were people who had been living at the in-town suites for like years. And I was sitting there like, they live in this for like longer than a couple of months. Like, this is a temporary situation. You can't tell me that people sit here actually do this for a year. Like, I'm shocked. Like, because ain't no way in hell I'm just gonna stop looking for a place to live simply because I'm in a hotel. But let me explain to you how my mindset changed so I could be more understanding to people who are in that type of situation. And so I'm alone, right? People on YouTube are giving me donations because I asked for them, to let them know I'm sick, I'm pregnant, I can't work. I need somebody to help me. I don't have any family here. My daughter is with her father. I don't have any help. Okay. Now, this took a lot of bravery to admit this for the world to see. Okay, because a lot of people don't want to admit that they have financial problems or issues, but we real people here. So I was like, I'm going to get online and I'm going to share this story and I'm going to see how many people relate and I'm going to see how many people pretend like they can't relate. All right. As people, some of us can all agree on having financial hardships to some degree. If you're a real American, like if you are a real person, at some point in your life, you've had at least one financial hardship. So I was like, okay, it's going to be people out here that understand this, and it's going to be people out here that's going to say some negative shit, right? Because of the fact that I have always been like financially stable. And there was a time where I was like making millions. And then to turn around, and now I'm like living in an extended stay hotel. It was like, I just couldn't believe it, right? I just couldn't believe it. So I'm in the hotel, I'm by myself, I'm asking for donations. And I asked for help to move out to Cali. I get out to California. I'm out here, number one. I'm screwed up mentally, emotionally, spiritually. I need a second to even grasp, to even process what's happening to me. And luckily, I was on bed rest and I had like my family here for me to just chill and take a moment and accept what I'm dealing with and to try to immediately start healing my mind, my feelings, and everything. And this was the harder part. Getting the house, getting the money to get the house wasn't the hard part. The hard part was getting myself to a place of mental stability, getting to a place to where I'm emotionally healthy so I could put in the work to get to where I am now. I had to get over that first. And that's actually hard to get over when you're pregnant. Like if you're not pregnant and you're sitting here, you're going through this, you're like, okay, I'm gonna work. You're not sick at all. You're just like, I'm gonna work, I'm gonna get myself out of this, right? You can have tunnel vision, you can motivate yourself. But when you just got broken up with by someone that you thought you was gonna marry, someone that just abandoned you and a baby because they don't want a baby, and then they get on social media and make it seem like you're this horrible person, you're dealing with a lot with that. It's people out there that would have cracked underneath that. Like holding that weight in itself was just hard. And also having to deal with the fact that I had literally nothing. Okay, I came to California, I gave all of my stuff to Goodwill. I said, I'm going to start my life over. I'm going to build it. I've built before, so I know how to build. You know, when you've built a house before, you know how to build. So you're not afraid of starting over. What you're scared of is the unknown, not knowing where you're going to get the tools and the resources to even rebuild. That's the part that has you like, you know what I'm saying? Like, who's going to help me do blah, blah, blah. But this is where the whole mental, spiritual thing comes in, to where if you're not thinking in a limited manner, if you're not consistently thinking about what you can't do, and you are simply thinking about what you can do in the moment, you'll understand that most of the things that you're going through is you're baby stepping it. It's one small thing after another, like brick by brick. You are building something, you are rebuilding something, and it takes time. And if you lose your patience or you get discouraged during that process, the bricks that you built on top, you'll start taking them down. So the house will never be built. So while I'm sitting there and I'm trying to rebuild my mind, my self-esteem, my confidence, everything that I'm dealing with, I'm trying to deal with that first. So I deal with that. I give birth. Okay. Now I deal with the fact that my son is born and the reaction of his father, the public, my family. That's a whole nother thing to deal with. It steps to shit. Okay. So when my son was born, I got like this boost of confidence to where I was like, I don't know, something came over me. I don't know, something just took over me. And I start going into full force mode. Like, okay, how am I going to get stable? Now, during my pregnancy, my mother had left and went back to DC. We're all originally from DC. My daughter's father, my daughter, my mother, my family. You know, my mother was born in Pensacola, and I have family in Florida and family in Washington, the DMV area, and in Detroit as well. And my mother during my pregnancy wasn't with me. So I had a lot of time, I was alone a lot. And I would get, when I wasn't online, I was alone. I was just by myself. And so when I would get online and I would do my live streams, even something simple as a live stream vlogging about my pregnancy was a step towards me healing and being honest with myself about my situation and gathering a level of understanding about my situation. Just speaking about it and then replaying it back to myself so I can hear my thoughts, my feelings, people's reactions, all of that, even the hard conversations or the negativity that I was receiving, all of it was helping me process what I was experiencing. And it also helped me understand who are my friends, who weren't my friends, what friendship truly was, what love and loyalty truly was, what respect is. It taught me a lesson in all of those things. Like if I didn't grasp the concept of having a strong character or what love and happiness and friendship and family all meant before then, I definitely knew it now. And for me to consider my son's father, my family, like a limb of mine, like he was my own blood. And for him to stab me in the back that way, it burns me on the inside and it broke my spirit. So I literally had to sit here, meditate through the negativity, through the pain, through the heartache. I literally had to do that just to mentally get myself together. So then finally, once I got myself mentally together, I think it took my son being about 5 or 6 months old. I'm back mentally where I need to be, spiritually where I need to be, emotionally where I need to be. I'm back. I'm like, okay, I feel the old Soncerae coming back. My strength is coming back. You know, I let a weak nigga put his weak energy onto me, and I just absorbed all of this weakness. And releasing his energy and remembering that I planted a seed in my damn self that was positive, that all I needed to do was water. And if you plant a seed in the ground and you water it, it takes time to grow. So as I'm doing my meditation when I first moved to California and being in this beautiful place, this is an amazing place, by the way. It's beautiful. So when you step outside, all you see is this amazing beauty. So it takes you off of the negativity real quick. And everybody is just moving and moving forward. They're dealing with everyday life. They're dealing with their own issues, and you seeing them still push forward every day. This is a very motivating ass place. Okay, Northern California is not a joke. Number one, you can't be broke living here, so you really got to push it living here. Don't nobody got time to be playing games. It's all about survival and living here, having a good time, experiencing things, having a good life. That's all people care about in San Francisco. That's it. They not for the foolishness. Most people are married. Most people team up together. You know. So anyway, my mind is getting back together. I'm 6 months pregnant. I'm like, okay, now I'm 6 months. My son is 6 months, and I'm like, okay. I find the smallest job with the lowest pay I can find, just because I know that I only been back mentally stable and emotionally fine for 6 months. It's only been, so I can't take on like this heavy responsibility of a software engineering job. I can't take no IT job. I gotta take something simple first, because the shit is baby steps. I can't just go out here and get me like this amazing computer IT job, and I'm just now pulling myself together. I was like, I'm liable to make a mistake. I need to step out there and do something small first. So I took one small job. And then I found another job after that that paid me more. Then I found another job that paid me more. And I took it one step at a time. Even that was hard. Okay? It was like, I was like, oh my God. Like having to pay for where I live and turn around and save at the same time without being on government assistance. I mean, the universe refused to give me government assistance. Let me tell you why the universe refused to give me this shit. Everybody kept saying to me, Soncerae, file for food stamps, welfare, damn, cash assistance, everything. File for it. I'm filing for your shit. You know what these people tell me? Oh, you make too much money off YouTube. You make too much money off of your graphic design business. We can't give you cash assistance. I was like, oh my God. Like I couldn't get any type of government assistance outside of WIC. So I was like, okay, I got WIC. All right, that's that one. I got WIC. All right, so, and I didn't want to file for any government assistance from the beginning. Like I didn't remember. If you remember back then, I didn't want to file for government assistance. I didn't even want to file for child support. It was that bad. And everybody was like, no, Soncerae, you got to file for government assistance. You got to file for child support. Do it, do it, do it, do it. And if it wasn't for so many people telling me to do it, I would have never done it. If it was up to me, my mother was going along with it. She was like, okay, don't do it. Don't file for child support. Don't do government assistance. She was like, okay. Shit. All right. That was my mother. And so if it wasn't for, social media and damn Facebook people and damn YouTube people like Soncerae file for, government assistance, I would have never done it. So I got WIC Didn't get any other help from the government. I just made too much money. Imagine imagine not having a place of your own, right? You're living with your family, right? You're not making enough money to live anywhere else. So you go to file for government assistance and they tell you, I'm sorry, you make too much money in a place that's expensive as hell to live in. Like, rent here for like a small 2 bedroom is like $3,000 a month. And that's not even in a fancy dancy part of San Francisco. Okay, it's like expensive as hell to live here. I'm like, do you realize that I could take this $3,000 a month in Atlanta and go live in a nice mansion, just happily ever after, right? But you get what you pay for, because Atlanta got some cheap shit, some negative shit that almost ain't survived for that 17 years. So anyway, I'm scavenging the Northern California Bay Area trying to find a cheap place to live, right? And everyone's like, there's no such thing as cheap place to live in San Francisco. Like, you can forget it. So I'm like, okay, how am I going to get out of this? So this is what I did. I stopped for a moment. I said, one thing I got to stop doing is efforting. There's a difference between inspired action and efforting. When you're efforting, you're trying to force something so hard to make something happen that's not meant to happen at that time. Everything is a process. Even with life, no matter how faster you want it to go, it's not going to go that way. The way that you want it to as fast. It's a process. So I said, number one, I got to stop efforting, because when you effort, you're putting so much focus on what you don't have. I need this, I need this, I need this, I need this right now because I don't have it. I want this, I want this, I want this right now because I don't have it. So I said, okay, let me stop efforting and just chill and put my mind in the state of, okay, God will provide. God will have me. Everything will work out fine. Everything works out for me. Money comes easily and it comes frequently, and I will be fine for every single situation. It will go how it's supposed to go. All I had to do was surrender. Surrender to what's happening to me. Not give up. There's a difference between, listen, remember I just said it's a difference between inspired action and efforting. Efforting is when you're trying to force something. Inspired action is when your gut is just saying, okay, now it's time for you to do blah, blah, blah. Here is the next step. Do this. Okay. So I wasn't giving up. I was just surrendering to the process, respecting the process. And once I started respecting the process, I saw the change where I didn't really have to look for a job if I wanted a new one. One just presented itself. And I would just, people like, you want a job at such and such? I'd be like, okay. And then move on. I never had to look for a job. I never had to look for any excess money, because people would say, oh, this company provides this resources. They'll give you such and such amount of money if you prove blah, 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 blah. Oh, you got a baby? You got an infant? Oh, well, they'll just give you money just to move into X amount of place. We will give you a house. That's nothing. Without you being on government assistance, without you filing for Section 8 or anything. Once I surrendered, the universe just started giving me everything. And if it felt like it was too hard to obtain it, I wouldn't push forward through it, because then it would become efforting. I waited for inspired action. So if I needed money, like say for instance, I knew maybe tomorrow I had something to pay and it's an emergency, I would just be like, okay, a way is just going to be created for me to pay for this. And if I can't pay for this and I need to move on to the next thing, I trust that the universe is taking me to the next step, which is the better step. It's never going to be, oh, I can't pay for such and such thing tomorrow, so I'm going to lose whatever, my house or my car. Let's, for example, let me give you a hypothetical. Say for instance, tomorrow you got to pay your rent. Matter of fact, it's April 2nd. Let's say you didn't pay your rent yesterday. All right? You got till when? The 5th before the 3rd before they put an eviction notice on your door, right? I'm not sure how that goes. The 3rd or the 5th, something like that. And you say, okay, I need $2,000 or they're going to evict me. Instead of you efforting trying to do whatever it is that you can in order to get this money by the 5th, trust the process. Say, okay, I already know that this rent is going to be paid by the 3rd or the 5th, whatever. I already know that this is what's going to happen. The thing that worries people is them not knowing how. You have to surrender to not knowing how. You have to just be okay and know when you are receiving an inspired action versus you going out here trying to force something to happen. It's a very different feeling. It's very different. The universe will make a way. It'll just clear it out if you trust it. But if you're sitting here and you're worrying, this goes back to the thing that I was saying about the building of the bricks. If you're building right, you're productive. You're like, okay, this is what's going on. Suddenly you got to take a lunch break because maybe you ran out of paste. Maybe you ran out of bricks. You don't get upset and be like, you know what, fuck this. I done ran out of bricks. I done ran out of paste. So I'm going to start taking the bricks down off of what I'm building. That's what worry is. When you worry about something not being accomplished, basically what you're doing is taking these bricks down that you was just building. Just think of it as a lunch break. It's not time for you to say, oh, fuck this. I'm never going to be able to build this house. It's never going to fucking happen. No, that's not it. So say, for instance, you ask the universe to pay your rent by the 3rd, and it doesn't happen. Trust the process, because what's going to end up happening is you're going to get out of that place that you're in that you were struggling to pay for to begin with. And God or the universe is going to give you something to replace it that's better and damn cheaper. I am only telling you what's happening to me and what's been happening to me my whole life when I'm not worrying. When I allow the universe or God, the higher power, handle my situations, and I sit back and I wait for that guidance, it happens for me every time. Me and my mother was looking for a house, right? My mother is an amazing person, by the way, because when I was pregnant, my mother was the one that was going out there working because she knew I wasn't mentally and emotionally right. My mother was like, Soncerae, I see you every day. I know what you're going through. If you want to give birth, leave justice here and go off and just have a moment to yourself, feel free. Do it. If that's what you need to do, you can come back whenever you're ready. So my mother said. And I was like, I'm not leaving my son with you. You out your crazy. You know, I was like, if anything, I would put him in foster care because he had, I know he'll have 2 parents. I know too many parents around me who would take good care of a child because they want a child. But then I was like, wait a minute. I ain't too thrilled about the foster care system either. So I'm just going to be mommy. I got to do this because I'm not going to set my son up. He ain't about to be going through no fuck shit he don't have to go through when I'm alive. Right? I'm not, no. If anything, I'm going to handle it. It's handled. Considered it handled. Right? So my mother is living in her own house. And I say to my mom, I need you to find me a house. So my mother's looking around for houses, and every time she came to me, well, I saw this apartment inside budget. You can get this apartment. I was like, didn't I tell you I want a house? I don't want no apartment. I am not spending over $1,000 in this place to be living in no goddamn apartment. It's not happening. If I'm going to spend all this money and I'm going to work my ass off to get this money, I'm not living in no apartment. It's not happening. You can forget it. She kept bringing me back these apartments. I was like, oh my God. I was like, this is my mother's version of my life. Not Soncerae's version of my life, but my mother's version of my life, right? So I said, you know what? This is going to take Soncerae going out here looking for houses herself. So I said, all right, universe, send me some houses. Just send me, give me what's mine. Show me what I'm ready to have. I know I want a house. The fact that the idea of a house is even in my mind is proof that it can come to fruition. Okay? Everything, every dream, everything that you want, any idea that comes in your mind, you could basically manifest. The universe will create it. So I said, just give me a house, right? Any house. So as I'm looking at the houses, like I'm just looking at the universe and what it's producing. And I'm like, okay, this house, it's just sending me shit. Like it's sending me stuff via email, um, for resources I didn't even sign up for. So I'm getting emails about houses I didn't even ask for, I didn't sign up for. Stuff is just coming. People walking up to me talking about houses. I'm seeing like signs I wasn't seeing before about houses. So houses are popping up everywhere. And I'm like, okay, the universe is pouring houses on me. So now all I need to figure out is what I want specifically. Not the type of house, but what do I want out of a home? I said, okay, all I know is right now, this is what I want. I want a place to be able to film. I want my space to be big enough for me to film in it. I want my son to have some space of his own because he's a boy. He don't need to be sleeping with his mama. He needs to have his own room. And I need to start him on this independent trip now because he's a man. He's not a little girl. I want for it to be a home to where it's not too big, it's not too small, and I want my daughter to be able to come home to it if after she goes to college she wants to come back home. And this is where I want to sit and stay so my son can build his life in a specific area. And I don't want it to be predominantly black. I want it to be multicultural. I don't want it to be too city-like. I want it to be almost like how I grew up in Fort Washington, Maryland, right? Those of you that was been watching the live stream from the beginning, you know I'm from the DMV area. So I wanted my son to have that same atmosphere just here in California. So I'm thinking, I'm looking at the houses and I'm like, okay, this is expensive. But then again, I'm trusting the universe to provide. So lo and behold, here comes another opportunity of me having a job that pays more than enough for me to be able to get this house. And me not having to work excessive hours and miss my son growing up because the universe knows that's what I want. I don't want to be tied up in a job to where I can't see my son grow up. I don't want to work so much to where I miss everything about him. So the universe knows this. The universe knows what house. I don't care if the house has 5 bedrooms, 6 bedrooms, 7 bed. That don't matter to me. What matters to me is me having my own space, my son having his own space, my daughter having her own, and I ain't living in no ratchet ass place. That's all I care about. I want it to be comfortable. I want to be able to cook. You know, I want to be able to have a nice backyard for my Yorkie. That's all. That's all I'm telling the universe. I'm not being picky about what neighborhood. I'm not being picky about too much of anything. What I notice about the houses a lot here is that when you're looking at a house sometimes it's like they're missing a refrigerator. They'll have a stove, but they won't have the refrigerator. Or they won't have the refrigerator or the stove. Or they have a refrigerator and no stove. I'm like, what is going on with you guys in these fucking appliances? So I said, all right, since I'm looking for a home that fits me specifically, and I don't want anything extravagant anyway, if I go into a home and I see it and it doesn't have the appropriate things in the kitchen, I'll just remodel the kitchen. It ain't that deep. I can make a house look how I want it to look once I get it. You know what I'm saying? So I'm saying this to the universe. I'm working with it. You know, I'm like, okay. So it's showing me houses. I'm like, not this house. Show me another one. Shows me another house. I'm like, not this house. So I stopped for a second. I stopped looking at houses because once again, I feel like I'm efforting. I feel like I'm putting forth all of this severe energy to try to find a house. One day, after maybe a week or so of me not looking at houses at all, I'm driving down the highway and I say, universe, just send me my house. You know what I want. Don't make me have to look. Just send me my house. Just let me know when you found it. Okay? Because instead of me sitting here trying to explain it over and over out into the universe, you already know me. I don't have to keep explaining this to you. You know what I'm saying? Because you know everything about me. I come home after being at work. My mother said, I saw this house. I saw this house. I know you're going to like it. Shows it to me. That's where I live. That's where I live. Getting into that house, easy. Getting the paperwork that I needed to get in the house, already had. It was already like prepared. I didn't even have to put forth any type of effort whatsoever to get it. I already had everything in order to get it. And so before I got it, right, when I saw it, right, and I was like, oh, that's my house. When I went to go see the inside of it, I was like, this is my house. Right? That's the same way I did with my car. I said, this is my house. Before I filled out the application to get it, you got to fill out the application, pay the application fee, do all of, the things, the paperwork. I would drive to the house. Like when I would go off work, I would set the GPS to that house and go to that house. And I did that until we moved in. That's all I did. It's all I did. And it's so much easier than me sitting here stressing myself like, oh, I got to get this type of job so I can afford living here. Do you know all of the resources? And I do mean resources coming from people who just wanted to help me with the deposit of the house. Like, oh, we'll give you, the deposit. Oh, you can have that. Just give us the paperwork that you'll be able to stay in the house and we'll give you the deposit for it. Oh, that's nothing. The universe will provide. I promise you. This is not a gimmick. This is not a scam. This is not me coming up with something. I'm not here to tell you to sign up for this or sign up for that and you'll get a house. I'm telling you, all I did was stop efforting and trying to force it so much. And I just sat there and waited for inspired action. I waited for guidance. And a lot of people be like, I can't wait. I can't wait for an inspired guidance. I can't do it. Yeah, you can. Yeah, you can. You have as much time as you believe that you have. I'm not going to say that hard work didn't get me anywhere because I did a lot of hard working. But I found an easier way to live. Nothing wrong with hard work. A lot of people be like, hard work got me my house. I went ahead and I just worked. That's not how I wanted to live. I didn't want to work myself to death, miss my son growing up just so I can live in a $500,000 house. And living in a $500,000 house in California is not hard because these houses are expensive. So take that for face value. Okay? That's all I did. I trusted the process. I trusted God. I surrendered. I let it go. And I just was like, okay, show me what I need to do. Just tell me. And even if I didn't get the answer immediately, I would just wait. Like, okay. And if I chill, it come faster. It will come faster because you like I said, it's a lunch break. So if you're building something, you put the paste down, you put the brick. You put the paste down, you put the brick. Put the paste down, you put the brick. And suddenly you're like, oh shit, I ran out of paste and bricks. Right? You're like, okay, I ran out. It doesn't mean stop building the house. It means go take a break for a second, chill, come back. I'll have the resources that you need in order to continue building. But people get discouraged around that time. They get discouraged around the part where it's just supposed to be a lunch break. And I just didn't do that. I had it in my mind that, oh, this is going to work out. It's going to work out, period. And even if I don't get what I think I want, the universe knows me better because when it gives me something else, and I see what it is, I'm like, oh, this is better than what I was thinking. Like I always say, when I ask the universe or when I ask God for something, right? It's never no. It's either yes, not now, or I have something better. It's never no. It's never no. Whatever it is that you're asking for, it is never no. It's yes, not yet, or I have something better. And once you keep that thought process in your mind, everything will work out for you. I promise, okay? I'll talk to y'all later. Have vision and stay